Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Jacinta Jimenez. I am BetterUp's Vice President for Coach Innovation, and I have the pleasure of leading our next Inner Work Day session. For me, inner work is putting lessons I've learned through years of study in positive psychology, neuroscience, motivational psychology, health behavior change into practice in order to grow as a human being first and foremost. For me personally, inner work is a vital practice. It's an imperative practice. It's not just a nice to have. It's something I don't take lightly. It has provided me the opportunity to slow down, to clarify my thinking, to center my soul, and feel more steady while the world of work and life continues to evolve and spin around us. And so to help me talk about the power of inner work and how to best approach designing an inner work experience for yourself and how coaching can help with inner work, I have with me a very talented BetterUp coach with a tremendous experience in helping leaders identify and follow transformational inner work practices. And that is the one and only Sean Meredith. Sean is a hands-on coach with experience in both individual and team dynamics. And I am absolutely thrilled to have him join us today to share his perspective on inner work. Sean, thank you so much for being here today with us.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here. This happens to be one of my favorite topics.
Yes. So, Sean, I want to start off by asking you about coaching, because coaching is such a big part of what we do at BetterUp, and it's so tied to inner work. So let's start off by this question. Can you share how coaching can be a useful mechanism just to design inner work practices that really are personalized to the individual, that speak to their unique circumstances, their unique personality, their unique mental state?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first off, just admitting that I'm biased in this because I think that coaching is the mechanism that when we look at the services that are out there, both professionally and personally, for helping and enriching people's experience, getting people past things, I think coaching is really the only one that allows that space to be driven by the individual, by the person across the coaching table. That as coaches, we're really trained not to own the agenda. We're trained not to influence that in a way. We facilitate a process of questioning and discovery, almost like guiding a person into themselves, where it's going to help them explore that space in a psychologically safe way, in a confidential way, in a way that's not impacted by us having any dual rules in their life. And I think that's really, really powerful. And I think in that sense, coaching is just the tool for the job. I think that when I reflect on just my own coaching, working virtually all over the world, I'm always surprised at how the process I run can translate across cultures. It can translate across age groups and dynamics and job levels and focuses of whatever the coach is bringing to the coachee session, because that process is the same.
So beautifully said, Sean. And obviously I'm biased too, because I think coaching is such a great way to get started on inner work, right? As coaches, one of the requirements in training is to do our own inner landscape work, to go inward and make sure to understand what we're bringing to the table as coaches. So it's almost like having an experienced tour guide to your inner world that can take you in an effective way to guide through that inner work process, which can be new or intimidating or kind of scary to do it alone. And to have that, like you said, Sean, that psychological safety where you're safe to take interpersonal risks of candor and be really vulnerable and transparent with someone who just has your best interest in mind can go such a long way in allowing you to take that risk of kind of going a little bit deeper than maybe you have in the past. So well said.
And I'm even thinking in there that we mentioned the safety, but there's also the efficiency of it. That if you're doing with a coach and a trained professional, you're going to get through that much faster. You're going to get through that process more quickly.
Yeah, you get that sounding board, that feedback, someone else to bounce ideas off, who's also trained in the art of doing inner work. Yes, absolutely. So speaking of expert guidance, I am going to ask you then, can you give us, Sean, 3 expert tips on how to design an inner work practice that is kind of personalized for each person that's interested in trying this practice out on a consistent basis?
Absolutely. I think when I reflect on that question, as a coach, I'm always thinking kind of categories, processes, as I'm coaching someone in front of me. And for me, I kind of go down this 3-tier assessment almost. Number one, I think we tend to be in situations in life where we're either in a surviving mode or a thriving mode. I hear other terms for this. Some people might say reactive, proactive. Some people might say um, a defensive posture or an offensive posture. And I like surviving and thriving because it brings in the reality that the truth is sometimes we got to survive. We got to pay that bill. We got to deal with this medical issue. We got to deal with this family issue, jobs, uncertainty, things of this nature. If the last few years hasn't just been an exercise in surviving for everyone. And I think that is not the space of inner work. So that space, as coaches, we're helping people navigate it, to get out of it, to build the baseline back. There's other services that help people build that baseline. So the second one, thriving, is really the space that you want to be in. You want to get yourself into this thriving space. And there's characteristics that you can kind of notice. One of those is, in a thriving space, this is going to sound a little weird, but in a thriving space, there's usually low clarity and low motivation. In a surviving space, we have high clarity and high motivation. I want to pass that test. I want to deal with this issue. I want this strange thing on my body gone. In the thriving space, we often get a little lost. And I think about this times where you find a little extra money or something and you don't know what to do with it, or you find a little extra time, you're freed up, one of your days clear up, and you just kind of, oh, okay, well, what do I do now? And sometimes we just rest, or we just, I don't know, we just whittle it away. So first off, if we could just heighten our mindfulness around which mode am I in? What am I facing right now? I think that's a great first step.
I love that first step, because also throughout our day, we can be in different modes, right? Maybe there's a high stress event in our day, and then maybe we're in this more thriving space. And those are the times to take advantage of the opportunity to kind of do that proactive work. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And for the second step, I love values work. There's so many great exercises on values work. Most of them are going to be some version of a list. You're going to have a list of words, and you're going to look at these words, and you're going to start narrowing and compartmentalizing, and putting that doll inside the doll. And you want to come down to, I help clients come down to 3, maybe 5 at the most value words. And I want them to really find those things that resonate, not the values they think they should have, not the values that other people told them they should have, but really, what are those values? What resonates with them? And have that as a compass. So if you have those values, what you can do is, in these thriving times, is you can use that as a guide. One of my values is adventure. And it was funny when I first did that, because that's such a weird marketing word, adventure. But I realized that if I am somewhere that I'm lost and low on food and like seeing new things, I get really excited, and I just do great in those spaces. So, I wander off on backpacking trips and things. So that value compass can really help you in those moments. And like you said, even if it's a micro moment, I get a free half hour. What would access one of my values right now? What could I read? What could I engage in? What could I do? Or if it's a vacation, what vacation might really access my values? What might really play that up? And so that second step is, you're going to have that compass or that guide.
That's beautiful. I'm such a proponent of values, like just having them. And I tell people to put them like on your, mirror when you brush your teeth in the morning, everywhere, just reminding yourself of your values. Because sometimes we can name like 5 celebrities faster than we can name our top 5 values. And it shouldn't be that way. We should be able to name our top 5 values off the top of our head. But unfortunately, a lot of times we haven't made the time to do that. And that's part of the inner work process too. And then finding those times to really tune into that value. And then what would you say is your third tip?
I think the third tip, and I love that, the values, what it makes me think of, when you look at a lot of like old, even like European cultures, we see those weird shields that had like truth, justice, and like a lion or something. I think that was early values work, that it was, what does this, family corporation stand for? And feudal systems, they're more corporations, but what does this stand for? What do we hold ourselves up to? So I think the third step, I always love how we're just like rediscovering the stuff humans have done forever. We find this, oh, they were
it's ancient wisdom a lot of times.
Or wherever. Yeah. But so I think the third step is understanding that piece I said, that the thriving side and the value side is not going to have a lot of intrinsic motivation. You're going to get lost a lot. So ideally, with a coach or a trusted ally or someone, you want to find a structure. You want to find a scaffolding, something that's going to hold you accountable, something that's going to pull you into that future. That might be routines around health or fitness or meditation or spiritual practices or just commitments. A group of friends and I from high school, once a year we go on a backpacking trip, 8 days or so in the wilderness, and just that grounding of that. We all know we're doing it. We got to carve it out of our life because we're accountable to each other, and we're just so happy every time we do it. So the third thing is really just putting into some kind of routine, some kind of structure that's going to be there when you don't have motivation or drive or interest, that's going to hold you accountable.
Oh, I love that third one. It reminds me of the concept of habit stacking. Great habits happen when you stack it onto an already set behavior. So every time I brush, so something I practice for my inner work is gratitude. So every time I brush my teeth, I've decided I will think of things I'm grateful for. And so it's a triggering response right there. Or even every time I come home and put my keys in my key jar on my entryway, I stop and breathe and go, what am I feeling right now? And just those little tiny habits. And then you can do the annual ones, like your backpacking trip. Those are so beautiful, and making it a regular process. Because I don't know, Sean, if you agree, but I really believe that inner work needs to be done on a consistent and persistent basis to really get comfortable with that landscape. It's not a place you just want to visit once in a while. You want to kind of hang out there and feel comfortable more and more being with yourself and knowing yourself. And just like a good friend, you got to spend time to get to know that friend. So you need to spend time getting to know yourself too.
Yeah, it's so hard. And remember, and everyone watching this, that values is a live document. It's okay for that to evolve and change and grow and shift in your different life stages. I love the brushing teeth and keys. I was thinking of one that really worked for me once. I made it my password. So every day I would
smart.
type in,
that's clever.
I had this focus area and I'd type in with some symbols and things, and it just, that repetition every day was in front of me when I was typing it in.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. It's these little life hacks that can make a difference. And it's just these little doses of inner work done on a consistent basis that can add up to a lot. I love it. So, Sean, I would love to hear, since we're talking about things that you and I have done, but I would love to hear kind of a coaching story or two about how you worked with a client to establish an inner work practice, and how that came about and what it looked like, or anything you want to share around that.
Yeah. I'm thinking of two. And first off, I don't think there's any coaching engagement I have ever had that doesn't get to some inner work. We're always at some point kind of going there, and you really just have to. I'm thinking of one. I was coaching someone, and they were later in career, and they'd done well. They were in tech early, and had a great career, and they were hitting a point where they kind of had to figure out a future, maybe the last 10 years of the career, and naturally they should have just gone up the hierarchy and become a senior vice president, or maybe make a company or something. And we're doing coaching, and I was sensing that this person was kind of about this. And so we went to inner work. We did values. We went really raw, really small. And this person started exploring a lot of these things that were pulling them. And they realized the things that were pulling them weren't really pulling them. So when it came down to it, they had enough money. When it came down to it, they had enough of their career. They're kind of done with that. Wow. When it came down to it, they tapped into this kind of old dream of a bit of this wandering life. And they came up with this picture of exploring and being in the world and being untethered. And they'd launched their kids, and they were just ready to like live this another chapter. And it was really powerful. And we started just small experimenting with it. What would you do if you leaned into this? And they actually said, you know what? I'd probably tell my boss, like, you got me for 4 years and just, that's it. And I was like, all right, do you want to do that? And they did that. And they started building these things and putting in these little blocks. And at the end of coaching, they had ordered their Airstream. They were in the list, and they had, were looking at the trucks, and they practiced this a few times, and they were just going to go on this kind of large open-ended journey with their life, and just kind of live that retirement dream that they wanted to. And they were even doing a little earlier than I think they would have, if they didn't stop and think about what they want. We get that quite, I love all the time people come to coaching, and sometimes they do it because they want to maximize their careers. And I say, what do you want? They say, I want a promotion. I say, why? They say, I want more money. And I say, how much? And they go, I said, let me guess, all of it? Like, you want all the money? And that's not realistic. And then we shift to values, and they realize a lot of times they actually have the resources they need, and that they're just not living them. And so let's live it now, today. Let's link into it in any way. So it's a really great story. I'm still get updates from that person, and they're loving it. They're living that dream and doing their thing.
What a beautiful story, Sean. And it just illustrates that this doesn't have to be this huge overhaul, scary process, that it can be done in these little stretch. And then maybe we stretch a little bit more and experiment. And with a coach there to guide you, that can make such a big difference. But it all starts, right, with that inner work and inner landscape work and looking into values too. Another question I have for you is just, what trends or what kind of inner work practices have you seen across members that people are finding really impactful?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I said earlier, I kind of categorize things, and I make this, nobody hold me to this. This is what I'm saying today. But I think I would put like 4 areas. Maybe this is like a menu for you. I see this inner work tends to be physical, emotional, spiritual, or social. And I think in social, I would put like career, family, world, like human social. And I find people go to one of those categories. Now, a lot of times it's going to be the category they need, that everybody's life is unique and different. As we said, everybody's at different levels in this. And I know your background in psychology, and I used to be a family therapist. And so I think developmentally, and some people address those at different stages. And it's really interesting when people come to these, when they finally want to take their body seriously, or their mental wellness seriously, or their spiritual life seriously. And it's just so fun watching people go through that. And so I think those are probably the categories I see.
Yeah, I love the categories, because I think it's easy to think, well, inner work is just about going inward, but sometimes we go inward, we can think about our social connections, or we're thinking about our physical health and our bodies. Sometimes we're operating so much from the neck up. We are so disconnected from our bodies, especially knowledge workers. And so a chance to get back into your body is part of getting back into knowing yourself as well. I know we're nearing time, but I have one more question for you, Sean.
Sure.
For everyone out there who's watching, if you could leave share an inspiring quote with them, or some challenge to get them motivated to start an inner work process, what would you say?
I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm a fan of Mr. Rogers. He has a famous quote: "If you can mention it, you can manage it. If you can mention it, you can manage it." I tell so many people, name it. What do you call this thing? In my coaching, I also, when people use words, like they say things like, I need synergy, I say, well, what does that mean? And if you name it, define it. I always say, grab one of these. And I tell my
you
members,
have it ready.
Got them. You are assaulted by inspiration daily. You're assaulted by inspiration every minute. Maybe you're seeing something in the background, wondering about these things I got hanging, or the things in your background. Maybe you're hearing something we say, and a piece of you goes, oh, hey, that would be interesting. You mentioned backpacking. I always wanted to do that. And we just let it go. We let it blow away in the wind. And so if you got that pen and paper, write these things down. I'll try backpacking someday. I want to look at these silk rope courses, whatever that means. And then in those moments of thriving, when you got nothing better to do and you got an extra $50 in your pocket, pull out the list and just say, oh, okay, here I go. I got this thing. And maybe just have faith in it, that was your inspiration. And so, yeah, I think that would be a great exercise. You could do it right now. Do it for the next week. Just keep a notepad and look for inspiration.
That's beautiful. There are so many moments of inspiration every day. There's moments of beauty that we miss or let fly by. So I love capturing those things and writing it down so that it's stored. Thank you so much, Sean. That is all the time we have for today. To everyone in the audience, I hope you take some time and take some of those lessons that we discussed and use them for your own inner work practices moving forward. And thank you for showing up, and be well.